For the next speaker, we have Meg. Meg is an incredible entrepreneur we met last year. And we met last year she applied to the Enygma Ventures fund that we had for women in SADC. So we had 900 applications, and of those, like, the ones that were really good that we interviewed were 30. Out of those, then we had 11 that we took through due diligence. And with that, what was amazing was that in December, when we were looking at all the 11 businesses, it was very through a different lens. And things changed very quickly between Feb and March, right? In February, we were still traveling. In February, I went to Silicon Valley with Lelemba, my wife. And at the time, like, we were changing VR glasses and all of those type of things, shaking hands with people. And it was a completely different world. A month later, there's lockdown, and then the business that was working then doesn't work anymore. And you have somebody like Meg, whose business had to pivot. And Meg even raised investment. So we're super excited to have Meg. Cool, Meg, thank you very much for joining us today.
Pleasure, Sandra. Super to be here with you and everybody else from all over the world. Big audience.
Absolutely. And you're in a different part of the world right now. Tell us about.
I am. Yes, I'm actually in the United Kingdom at the moment. I'm on a tiny little island, one of the Channel Islands, just off the coast of France, called Jersey Island. We're also in lockdown, just like most of you around the world. We're fortunate in that we can get a little bit of exercise done every day. So they've locked us down, but they're allowing us to exercise, which is, always a big thing.
Yeah, those of us here, we are exercising on YouTube. Yeah, so we put on an exercise video on YouTube and just follow along. So that's our new world now, a new life. Great. So, Meg, tell us about PlaySense, and just from the beginning. What is PlaySense now? Then you can tell us about what it was.
Okay, shall I start with where it came from? It was a program that was developed for little ones as that transition period between being at home with mom and then going into a school environment. So traditional education focused on going all the way from the kindergarten years and preschool all the way through into tertiary education. And obviously little ones were often at home with their moms or in creches before that. And we saw a little gap in the market in between being home or being in a creche and actually going into a preschool environment, the 2 to 4 year old. And the 2 to 4 year old is actually a very critical stage in development. I'm an occupational therapist, so that's where it came from, because you're bedding down a lot of the soft skills that are needed for success in the future. And in fact, a lot of the people who will be watching this type of kind of event will have really learned very strong skills early in their life. It doesn't include our hard skills like learning to read and write and code and everything. It's really a lot about how you relate to people, and that happens in formative years. So we saw an opportunity for actually providing a curriculum for in-home education, but with a teacher. So what would happen was the mom could go out to work, an au pair or a teacher would come into her home and have 6 kids in the home and conduct a little homeschool program. And that's really, we started 4 years ago, and over the 4 years, we developed into a franchise business in which a teacher would come, she would actually get the program, she would then sign up as a franchisee, and she would conduct the program either in her own home or in a parent's home. And the curriculum was then delivered on a tech platform. So that was traditionally what we had been doing.
Okay, let's see. And then we were ready, and you applied to Enygma Ventures. Maybe before we get into your pivot, tell us, what do you think made your business stand out when you are when you're applying? Yeah, what do you think made your business stand out?
So I think what was critical was that, I think on 2 levels we really ticked a box. The first thing was the needs that we were meeting, and Enygma was quite focused on meeting needs and in the social needs as well. And we definitely ticked 3 boxes there. So we empower women. We are working with ECD in the ECD space. and so in early childhood development. And so we really were working with the key factors that were needed, in the world at the moment. But having said that, it wasn't good enough. It had to be a business that could scale. And I think that was an enormous part of the reason why Enygma was interested. And in order for a business to scale, it has to be something that's replicable, so we can just, repeat it elsewhere. But it also had to be something that could repeat to a vast number of people. And that's, I think, what Enygma saw in us. What we had done over the over the 4 years is we had set up a franchise model that was literally could become plug and play. So whether you were here there in South Africa or here in the UK or in the USA, if you had a market of little toddlers and you had teachers who could come in and work in schools or wanted to conduct the program and purchase a franchise, you were able to do that. So I think that is really, and we positioned ourselves by making sure that we'd gone through the legal requirements, set up the franchise documents, and then of course set up a tech platform where people could access the curriculum really easily.
And have you raised investment before, or did you bootstrap? How did you start?
No, it was classic bootstrapping. So my partner and I are both occupational therapists. We had many months where neither of us took salaries at all. I mean, it was classic startup. We had months where we actually had to invest and put in money ourselves. We have always run the businesses out of our home. And we're able to do that. Our actual admin team, so we obviously have all of our teachers who work in parents' homes, but we also have our admin team, which is 6 also women. It's an all-woman business. And these women all work from their own homes using their own technology. And that was important to us, that we didn't want people to have to be traveling into a certain location and a certain office. And I think in some ways, a lot of the things that I'm alluding to are what positioned us later for the pivot that obviously had to come now with COVID-19.
Great. And tell us now about what you needed to do, like how your business model was just thrown into
disrupted.
Yes, into disarray with just from between Feb. What happened to your business and how did you?
So our business service was very hands-on. We had teachers in people's homes working with their children, just like almost every other education program, every other school in the world is exactly the same. And in the lead up to the week before the lockdown in South Africa, I happened to be on a trip in South Africa. We were training our new intake of teachers. And I had a sense that one of the first things that would be schools. And of course, that's exactly what happened. Before the lockdown happened, a week ahead of that, schools got shut down. And the problem with the industry that I was working in, or the age group I was working in, is that if you're a parent at home and you've now suddenly got your kids at home with you, and by the way, you're trying to conduct your work and you're trying to do Zoom interviews, and you've got your whole life happening, and you've got a 2-year-old behind you, there's going to be a real sense of, hold on, that's a luxury that A, I can't afford because the world's economy is in disarray, and B, I'm not getting any service for that because my kid's at home with me and I'm having to look after them, I'm having to homeschool them. Why am I paying a teacher? So literally overnight, I called the whole admin team in and I said, listen, we've got to turn this around and create value immediately for our parents. And I think that message is probably the biggest thing. When people start to talk about how do you pivot, if you're looking at how you create value for the end consumer, that's got to be your first point of departure. And so we sat down and we said, okay, so I'm a mom at home. I've got a 2-year-old in the background. I've got a business meeting to conduct. We've all seen the BBC interview with the kid in the background. And I've got to somehow create value for that person. And that was where we started. And what we did was within 72 hours, and just putting a little bit of context in terms of Enygma Ventures in this, Enygma had, prior to that, we'd gone through the application process with them. We had in February been announced that we were a cohort of one of 10 businesses who were going to be funded by Enygma Ventures. So we were hugely excited. But of course, this was to put franchises into people's homes. And overnight, everything looks uncertain because A, our parents are about to bail on their fees. B, our franchisees, who are actually our customers because they're the people who pay us the royalties, are going to have no turnover themselves and they're going to bail on paying us the royalties. And C, we're probably about to lose our venture capital as well. So we had the perfect storm happening, and I think a lot of the people watching this can probably identify with that as well. But the pivot did not happen because we were worried about the funding, and that was a very important thing. At no point did we feel like we had to pivot to get the funding. I wanted to pivot because I needed to protect my teachers. I knew that for some of them, for many of them, this was their livelihood, their whole family livelihood, and so we had to make sure that they had a business afterwards. And that's how the pivot happened. We got our team around the table and we brainstormed how we could deliver our curriculum, which was already a curriculum that was delivered online on a portal called Obami. That was already being delivered to teachers, and they could access their curriculum every week. And I said, come, let's take this curriculum and let's deliver it to parents. But what we knew was that the curriculum that was delivered to teachers was way too weighty, too much information, too many activities for us to deliver into parents. And that's one of the things that's come out of all the memes that you see around homeschooling, is that parents are overwhelmed, and they're overwhelmed with just having the kid at home, never mind the pressure of having to now so-called educate them as well at this time. So what we did is we whittled it down to just 2 essential activities, and that was going to be delivered into parents in a way that was so easy to consume, so easy to conduct. It had to be really, really blind easy, so that a sleep-deprived, crazy, frustrated parent would be able to do it. And then at the same time, the other thing that we identified, and this is quite important when you're starting to think about how to pivot businesses in this time, is that we started to think about one of the biggest things that was missing in people's lives right now is social connection, because we were all isolated. And part of social connection is actually dropping your kid off at school and saying hello to everybody, and having the teacher say hi to you and tell you how your kid's day was. And for the little ones, it was for them to have that connection with their friends. So we decided that in this platform that we were going to pivot, we were going to build in functionality for Zoom, so that the moms and the teachers could then connect daily in a morning ring. And so we created a daily routine that included a morning ring, the activities, touch bases through the day, and then just real connection from the teacher and hand holding as they guided parents through it. So I think the pivot happened because we identified the 2 great needs: keep little ones entertained and connect parents in a community. And then we rolled it out. It took us 72 hours. My team of 6 women who had previously been doing a very different role for us, because they had to just be flexible now, they got thrown into developing an online portal, a curriculum, and that's what we did. We did it in 72 hours from start to finish. And after 72 hours, we had this to show. And the only part in the pressure in that whole thing, my intent was always to deliver this for the parents and the children. But in the back of my mind, I kept saying to the team, you know what, guys, I've got a meeting with Enygma Ventures on Monday. And if I've got something to show them, like a real pivot, something that can really work, then maybe we'll get funded as well. So it was a secondary thing. But it certainly was something that I also had at the back of my mind.
That's amazing. Like 72 hours. That's really amazing.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And because there are a lot of people during this time have just like thrown their hands in the air, like I don't know what to do. Then others have buried their heads in the sand, like, oh, this will pass, then somehow we'll survive, But then like you got to work. Maybe all of us initially, it was like we threw our hands in the air and like, yeah, we screamed, complained, kicked, and wished things would just continue. Then we got to work, but you did it really, really quickly. Well done. And the work that you're doing, you're helping us, because right now, 20 years from now, we're worried that our leaders will be these kids who are being schooled by drunk parents, the drunk teachers.
Exactly.
I think now, as parents, we should have like more respect for teachers. Imagine like 5 of these and 8 of these and the 30 of these little humans. I'm struggling with 2 of my own,
Yeah, I think the thing, interestingly, that's been the hardest, because I mean, there's been a lot of massive growing curves over the last 2 weeks, but one of them has been for our teachers, because teachers are, I mean, when you said, parents have respect for teachers love what they do. Like they are fired up by having 6 whining little ones all over them. And what's been the hardest for them when they come back and they feed back to us has been the lack of engagement with these little ones. That, that they're behind a screen and they want to be there on the other side with the little ones. So it's quite funny. The thing that the parent is fearing the most is the thing that the teachers are missing the most.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, so tell us about the importance of leadership and team in this disruption.
Yeah, look, I think, leadership is incredibly important. I think that, there's a couple of things. A leader has to be somebody who can see a possibility. And I think that's where potentially in a lot of businesses, people are just not seeing a possibility. Like where do I go with this? It's an absolute disaster. My business is not a business that can pivot. And I am in a circle of friends who are leaders in business and own their own businesses. And for many of them, they're going, well, there's nothing I can do. My business can't go anywhere. And I think that strong leadership tries to distill the piece in your industry that will really make a difference in somebody's life. So for us, it was the connection and the distraction for little ones. So those were the pieces. So try and find the real need. And then once you've identified it, don't be scared of making a decision. And I think often that's where, I can make a wrong decision. I can absolutely make a wrong decision, but I'm very quick to then turn it around and go, okay, hold on. I know I said yesterday we were going down that path, but today we're going down that path. And my team have got used to me saying, we're a startup. You've got to be mentally flexible. You've got to roll with the punches, and this is the direction we're going in today. So one of the things that I did very early on was when I perceived that we were going to lose our revenue stream, which happened before I decided to pivot, like about 3 hours before we decided on the pivot. I called my team in and I said, guys, I want you to have jobs in 3 months' time, and this will still be going in 3 months. I was certain of it at that point already. And I said, so I'm cutting your salaries 20%, and all leadership, all of the top roles are going to have no salary this month. So I just cut back on costs instantly. And luckily, I've now been able to go back to them because of the pivot. We've had more people come on board, so our business has actually grown. And so I could go back to them 3 days ago and say, okay, so I made a mistake. Actually, we're not cutting your salaries now. We're now going to do this. But I wasn't fearful in the moment of saying, you guys are taking a salary cut, like before lockdown was even announced. And I think sometimes strong leadership is being able to make a quick decision. You can always go back on it, but kind of getting standing doing nothing is actually a lot worse in leadership than having a leader who can make a wrong choice and then come back from it, So I think that's an important part. And then the third part about strong leadership is, without question, you've got to be a cheerleader. You've got to be that person who makes people want to work till 2 o'clock in the morning just because they believe in your vision. And I think for me, I completely believe in this vision. I know that I have a very good sense that this pivot is not going to just be for now. It's going to be for the future. I don't think our world will ever be the same. And it's that information and that message, that story, that picture, that when my team hear that, they know, my gosh, they're buying into a business that really is going to work. And for many of them, over the last few weeks, their husbands have either lost their jobs or had hours cut back, or there's a huge amount of uncertainty in their businesses. And for my team, they're going, no, we've got certainty because, we believe in that vision. The vision that Meg says is going to come, that vision is what we bought into. So when they are required to do a turnaround in 72 hours, which meant that they worked it was over a weekend, which meant that they literally were working kind of 18 hours a day. They did it, even though their pay had just been told that they'd just been told their pay was going to be cut. So, it's kind of building that vision and making sure that your team can be swept along with your excitement as well.
Oh, brilliant. That's excellent. And you've got an amazing team. And well, yeah, they've done an excellent work. Like you can see
and I think that is just, sorry, I don't know how many of them are watching, because I did give them this post, but I do need to say that my team is absolutely exceptional. And it's probably, they are not techies, they are not coders, they do not have PhDs in anything. But what they are is people who are flexible and who work really well with other people. And, I'm sure you've heard about Project Oxygen, which was some research that Google did a few years ago. And they looked at people who floated to the top in their business. And they found that those people didn't necessarily have STEM skills and strong kind of skills. They really had really strong soft skills, things where they could work as a team, collaborate, they could get something moving. And my team is like that. And I mean, absolutely everything that has been done over the last 2 weeks has been done because of them, for sure.
Fantastic, fantastic. Is your team better than mine? I got an amazing team.
Yeah, I don't know. Hey, mine is amazing.
I also have an amazing team of all women, and they are amazing.
Okay,
Sure,
yeah.
yeah, but that's incredible. I've met members of your team, and that's really, really great. So there's a question for you. What's the name? Hassan is asking, saying, first of all, saying that wonderful business and much needed, as parents need to be able to do their work in the current lockdown dispensation. Do they need to play a role in keeping the child focused, as the teacher is not physically present, rather on Zoom? Do parents need to watch their kids?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. I think that's probably the number one question anybody who's getting our marketing material is asking, like how hands-off can I be? So there's two answers to that question. The first thing, just to answer it directly, is that the teachers come in for a half an hour Zoom meeting at 8:30, and the kids have got used to engaging with their classmates on Zoom. So the parents actually can disappear then for half an hour. We've given the parents strategies to help their little ones set up, have a little consistent cushion, a consistent space to sit. And as it becomes part of their kind of daily, kids have incredible mental flexibility. So as it's become part of their day, they have adjusted to that. So there is a little bit of respite there. Our activities are very focused on imagination. And this is the second piece of magic, because when you start to unleash a child's imagination, you have to entertain them a lot less. And the problem is, in our current world, or certainly the world pre-COVID, our little ones were very prompt heavy. In other words, they could only play if you were entertaining them or if a TV program was on. And they'd lost the ability that we had as kids to just have imaginary play, playing out with a stick in the garden or whatever it was. And it could be anything. And technology, to an extent, has taken that away from children, which has meant that parenting them is harder for us because they don't know how to entertain themselves. So that's one of the things that our program does do. It teaches parents to help their children to develop imagination so they can entertain themselves. So that definitely is a change. But the other thing, just to answer that question, because I think that question also comes from a position of fear as a parent, like, my gosh, how am I going to entertain this child? I've got 8 hours ahead of me today. But in actual fact, I think as we go into homeschooling more and more, and this is going to be a trend in the world, parents will actually fear time with their children less, because they'll know that A, their kids can entertain themselves, and B, that as parents, we actually have got it within ourselves to find a way to play again, which many of us have actually forgotten how to do. So I do think that although our teachers are not in the room, the program will assist parents to actually find this for themselves. I think I've lost Sandras, but maybe I'll go on to the next question then. Okay, so Nicole, wonderful business. Okay, that was from Hassan. What resources are there that we can tap into as parents, and can we get the details? Yeah, so the website is playsense.org, and you can go and have a look in there. And the way that we're going to pivot our business, or the way it's going to continue long term, is that we're going to have both the at-home program, which is a homeschool program, which you can enroll for. And we'll also have the in-home program as well. So once schools go back to normal, we'll have teachers who actually can come into your home as well. So we're definitely taking applications from around the world. This morning we had applications from the UK, and so we're definitely going to be able to roll that out. And we've just had a meeting that we came from just now, talking about Botswana and Zimbabwe as well. So certainly we'd be able to roll this out through Africa as well. And we'd be able to find teachers in your area, give them employment and something to do, meaningfully, and then be able to give them access to our program for sure.
Great. I got kicked out for a bit. We're finding that
we missed you.
Yes, I'm finding that all the different programs right now, yeah, Zoom and all the communication programs are kind of struggling because of high demand in the world. So, and then now, especially during the day, with more people online, so we're just struggling on the different platforms. But thanks. Any other questions for Meg? And please continue to to post on social media?
I see one there, Sandras, from Nanive asking about the Smart Toy Club. I actually don't know about the Smart Toy Club. And I think there are quite a few product and service companies that are providing some sort of products and services. The difficulty with, and I think Smart Toy Club probably sounds like something where they deliver in boxes. And that has been one of our challenges, because obviously with the lockdown now and with no businesses being able to deliver anything that aren't essential services, the kits that go with our program, which we delivered in for the first, again, that was part of the 72-hour pivot, was putting together our kits and equipment. So that obviously can't happen right now. So we've had to make sure that our program can use everything that's around the house. We're already engaging, though, with Amazon and with Takealot in South Africa and with various other companies to do the fulfillment of our boxes, which will go along with our subscription long term.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks. Everybody, could you just type a 1 if you want to say a big up to Meg? And to Meg, thank you very much for your wonderful business.
Oh, thank you very much. Oh, that's so kind. I really appreciate it.
Yes, for your pivot, like, you're really inspiring. And so for something also that I've come to learn over the years working with entrepreneurs is that whenever there is a call for investment, for funding, a lot of people actually don't believe, because there's been like a lot of competitions where you win mentorship. There's no real money. You win advice. So that when we put out the call for the Enygma Ventures, a lot of people didn't think, like, is this for real? So but then went through the process. Lastly, for you, what advice would you give to people who are thinking about raising money? They've never done it before. They've just been working on their businesses. They don't know what investors want, how to speak the language, and all of those things. What would be your
advice? Look, I think we got extremely lucky. And when I say that, Enygma Ventures, I do think, this is my first round of investment in any of my businesses. I did have a previous business as well that I sold, but this is the first time I've gone for VC. And what I have found, and potentially what somebody else will find with a different fund, could be very different. But with Enygma Ventures, first of all, the process to apply was actually very seamless. It was an online form that we went through, and it was pretty seamless. But I would say to people who are going to go through the process, you're going to have to put in a lot more work than you think you are, because even in a very seamless process, and particularly now we're in due diligence just before the money flows, you're trying to do your business, you're trying to pivot, you're not breathing there anyway, and there's just a lot of work to do. So you're going to have to knuckle down and know that this is not coming at a small cost. It's going to come at a big cost in terms of how much you've got to invest time-wise. The other thing, though, that you said, Sandras, which I just wanted to say about Enygma Ventures, is that I have many years ago, I was entered into an entrepreneurship competition, which I ended up winning. And it was exactly as you said. I won a computer, and that was it. Other than that, it was just a whole lot of advice and really a lot of fresh air, even though it was valued at R1 million at the time. Anyway, so a lot of that. But I will tell you something about my experience this time around, is that not only have I found this experience of venture capital extremely fair and really a positive process, but in addition to that, what has come, which is an added benefit I wasn't expecting, is the mentorship. And that I wasn't expecting. I came off a session with Sarah actually a couple of hours ago, and it's just incredible. As an entrepreneur, you often are very much alone, and you don't know, there's nobody to ask, because everybody in your business is looking at you to answer their questions. And one of the biggest benefits that I have found as well, and it's very fresh for me today, is just having another voice to go, well, why aren't you going down that road? Aren't you chasing that? Don't chase that thing, chase that thing. And having that level of mentorship has just been a really added bonus that I really hadn't been expecting with the whole Enygma Ventures journey. So, for me, I would say to anybody in business, go for the VC, even if it's not for the money. The whole package, the process, the discipline to think about your business through the eyes of somebody who's going to invest in it. It really, really is an incredible process and really, really good all round from many different perspectives.
Fantastic. Thanks for that feedback, Meg. And I agree with you that I also learned from Vinod Khosla Ventures in Silicon Valley. You're saying the same thing, that talk to VCs even when you're not trying to raise money. because they'll just give you some advice or some ways of thinking about your business. But also now, if you get investors who are really mentoring you, and exactly that, as founders and as CEOs, we must have the answers. And almost like sometimes you can't tell people like, I don't know, you know.
Yeah,
Then
sure, because
when
you've got to be the leader.
yes, then you do, like, you change your mind. Sometimes people get disheartened, but also as leaders, when we're vulnerable, we share like, I don't know what to do, or help me, and you do that. But then also when you have somebody else to give you that guidance, who's got the more area view, the helicopter view, that is super, super helpful. So thanks for sharing that. Yeah. Thanks for joining us today. Really, it's been really, really, really inspiring. So for everybody else, we have another fund. This is the Shift Fund, which is just launched now with Enygma Ventures, and this one is for any company that has has a solution for COVID or post-COVID world. So anything that you feel is working for you. So thank you very much, Meg. Really, really enjoyed the chat. You should have yourself a wonderful day in Jersey.